There is a grief so profound, so quiet, and so overwhelmingly heavy that the world often does not know how to look at it. It is a sorrow carried in secret by millions of women across the globe. It is the folded ultrasound picture kept hidden in the back of a drawer. It is the nursery that was painted but never slept in. It is the sudden, devastating silence of a miscarriage, or the unbearable tragedy of a stillbirth. Society, in its awkwardness and inability to handle deep pain, often rushes these mothers to move on. People say things like, "You can always try again," or "It wasn't meant to be," as if a human soul is something that can simply be replaced. But a mother knows the truth. From the very moment of conception, an invisible, eternal cord is forged between her heart and the child growing inside her. That child was not a potential life. It was a real, unique, unrepeatable human being. And when that life is cut short, before it even has the chance to see the sun, the mother is left standing in the ruins of a future that will never happen. But for a Christian mother, the physical and emotional loss is often violently overshadowed by a terrifying spiritual agony. A question haunts her mind in the dark, sleepless hours of the night. A question so painful that she is often afraid to say it out loud to her priest, or even to her husband. Where is my baby? This terror is rooted in a misunderstanding of one of the most fundamental doctrines of the Church. We know that baptism is the ordinary gateway to salvation. It is the water that washes away the dark stain of original sin, the inheritance of Adam and Eve that rests upon every human soul entering this world. So, what happens to the fragile soul of a child who dies in the womb? What happens to the infant who passes away before the holy water can be poured over their forehead? For centuries, cruel rumors, harsh interpretations, and theological rigorists have whispered a nightmare into the ears of grieving parents. The terrifying idea that because these infants carried original sin, they are cast into the same outer darkness as the wicked, suffering the torments of the damned. The thought of a tiny, innocent baby suffering in the fires of hell is enough to drive any mother to the brink of absolute despair. It is precisely into this agonizing darkness that Jesus Christ sent a beam of profound, shattering light through the mystic Saint Bridget of Sweden. To understand why her visions on this specific topic are so incredibly powerful, you first have to understand who Bridget was. Before she was a saint, before she was a visionary counseling popes and kings, Bridget was a mother. She gave birth to 8 children. She lived in the 14th century, an era where infant mortality was tragically common. She knew the smell of a newborn baby. She knew the physical exhaustion of labor, and she intimately knew the fierce, protective, consuming fire of maternal love. God did not choose a secluded, isolated monk to receive the revelation about unbaptized infants. He chose a mother who knew what it felt like to hold a child. Bridget possessed the boldness that only a mother can have, and in her deep conversations with Christ, she dared to ask him the question that breaks the hearts of so many women. She brought the collective trauma of grieving mothers directly to the throne of the Creator. Before we reveal the exact, incredibly comforting words that Jesus spoke to Saint Bridget regarding these little souls, I want to speak directly to the mothers and fathers watching this who are carrying the invisible scar of losing a child. You are not alone, and your child is not forgotten. We are building a community here to uncover the immense depths of God's mercy and to bring healing to the spiritual wounds that the modern world ignores. If you need this message of hope, please subscribe to the channel today. And in the comments below, I invite you to leave a physical mark of your love. You do not have to explain your story. Just write the name you gave your child, or simply write, Jesus. I trust my little one to your mercy. Let the comment section of this video become a digital memorial, a tapestry of prayer where we lift these beautiful souls up to the heart of the Father together. When Saint Bridget presented this agonizing dilemma to Christ, she was shown a vision that completely dismantles the horrific lies whispered by the devil. The enemy wants mothers to despair. He wants them to believe that God is a cruel, legalistic tyrant who would torture a baby over a technicality. But in Book 6 of her Revelations, Jesus completely shatters this demonic illusion. He speaks to Bridget with the gentleness of the Good Shepherd. He addresses the reality of original sin. Yes, the stain is real, and it is a tragedy of the human condition that these children died without the sacrament of rebirth. However, Jesus immediately draws a massive, impenetrable line between the guilt of a deliberate sinner and the state of an unbaptized infant. Jesus revealed to Saint Bridget that these children have committed no actual personal sin. They have never chosen evil. They have never rejected God. They have never spoken a lie or harbored a hateful thought. Because they have zero personal guilt, the absolute justice of God dictates that they cannot and will not suffer the punishments of personal sin. Christ assured Saint Bridget that these little souls are entirely shielded from the fires of hell. They do not burn. They are not tortured by demons. They do not experience fear, cold, hunger, or any of the physical or spiritual agonies reserved for the damned. The devil has absolutely zero power over them, and he is not permitted to touch a single hair on their spiritual heads. But Jesus went even further, offering a phrase that has served as a lifeline for grieving parents for centuries. He told Saint Bridget that while they may lack the specific sacramental grace of baptism, these infant souls are closer to my mercy than to punishment. Think about the magnitude of those words coming from the mouth of God. The creator of the universe, the perfectly just judge, looks at these tiny fragile souls not with the cold calculation of a legal contract, but with an overwhelming, protective, paternal mercy. He claims them as his own creation. He takes them out of the battlefield of the earthly realm, where they were so vulnerable, and he places them in a state of absolute safety. This revelation fundamentally changes the landscape of a mother's grief. It removes the sting of spiritual terror. The mother can weep for the physical absence of her child. She can mourn the milestones she will never see, the laughter she will never hear, and the physical embrace she was denied. That grief is valid and holy. But she no longer has to weep out of fear for their eternal safety. Saint Bridget saw that God's justice is not a blind, unfeeling machine. His justice is perfectly married to his love. He created that child. He knit that baby together in the womb. He loved that child before the mother even knew she was pregnant. And he does not abandon the works of his hands to the darkness. However, this comforting revelation naturally leads to a profound theological mystery. If they are not in the torment of hell, where exactly are they? What is their daily existence like in eternity? What do they see? What do they feel? And will the mother ever be able to interact with them again? To understand the beautiful, deeply peaceful reality of where these children reside, a state the Church has historically referred to as the limbo of the infants, we must dive deeper into the mechanics of the afterlife. We must understand the difference between the pain of sense and the pain of loss, and discover how God creates a paradise of natural happiness for the most innocent among us. When we hear the word limbo, our modern minds often conjure up a bleak, depressing image. We imagine a gray, foggy waiting room, a dark void where souls float aimlessly in a state of eternal boredom or quiet sadness, forgotten by God and separated from the warmth of creation. This horrific misconception has caused untold agony for grieving parents. But this is not what the Church, nor the great mystics, have ever taught. To understand what Jesus meant when he told Saint Bridget that these unbaptized children are closer to my mercy than to punishment, we have to look at the actual origin of the word. Limbo comes from the Latin word limbus, which translates to the hem or the fringe of a garment. Historically, theologians referred to the limbus infantium, the limbo of the infants, not as a pit of despair, but as the very outer edge, the beautiful, illuminated fringe of the garment of heaven itself. It is the borderland of paradise. To grasp the breathtaking peace of this reality, we must dive into the profound distinction the Church makes between two types of eternal consequences, the pain of sense and the pain of loss. The pain of sense is exactly what it sounds like. It is the active, tormenting punishment of hell. It is the fire, the presence of demons, the crushing despair, and the physical and spiritual agony reserved for those who deliberately, knowingly, and stubbornly chose evil during their earthly lives. As we established, a baby in the womb, or an infant who passes away shortly after birth, has committed zero personal sins. Therefore, as the great doctor of the Church, St. Thomas Aquinas, explicitly taught, echoing the merciful visions of Saint Bridget, God's perfect justice strictly forbids these children from suffering the pain of sense. God is not a monster. He does not torture the innocent. The demons have no right to them, and the fires of purification do not touch them. They are completely and eternally safe from the horrors of the demonic realm. The only consequence that remains is what theology calls the pain of loss, which refers to the lack of the beatific vision, the supernatural ability to see God face to face in His raw, infinite, blazing glory. Because they did not receive the supernatural elevation of baptism, they do not possess the spiritual eyes required to look directly into the unshielded essence of the Trinity. But here is the magnificent, comforting truth that St. Thomas Aquinas beautifully explained. They do not suffer from this loss. Why? Because a soul only grieves the loss of something it was naturally owed or something it personally threw away. A bird does not sit in a tree and weep because it cannot swim like a dolphin. It is perfectly happy being a bird. Similarly, because these infants never committed a personal sin to lose heaven, and because the beatific vision is a supernatural gift rather than a natural human right, they do not feel any sorrow, grief, or pain over not having it. They are not sitting on the edge of heaven crying because they cannot get in. They are completely free from the agony of rejection. If this deep theological reassurance is lifting a weight off your heart, or if you know a mother, a father, or a family member who has been carrying the silent, crushing cross of losing a child, please share this video with them right now. And take a second to like this video. Your engagement helps the algorithm push this message of divine mercy to women who might be weeping in secret, terrified for the souls of their babies. By sharing this, you are participating in a spiritual work of mercy, bringing the light of Christ to the darkest corners of human grief. Let us help them find peace. So, if they are not suffering the torments of hell, and they are not grieving the loss of the beatific vision, what exactly is their existence like? The theological consensus, deeply aligned with St. Bridget's vision of God's overwhelming mercy, describes their state as one of supreme natural happiness. Imagine the most beautiful, peaceful, and joyous moment you have ever experienced on this earth. Imagine a state of perfect harmony, where there is no sickness, no hunger, no cold, no fear, and no death. Imagine a mind completely free from anxiety, depression, and the malice of the world. That is the baseline of their existence. They are in a state of perpetual, unbroken joy. Furthermore, they are not cut off from God. While they may not see Him in the blinding, supernatural light of the beatific vision, they know God perfectly through His creation and His natural gifts. Just as we can feel the warmth of the sun without staring directly into it, these children feel the profound, unconditional love of their Creator. They know they are loved by God. They love Him in return with a perfect, innocent, natural love. They are united to Him through a bond of profound peace. They live in a spiritual paradise that is perfectly suited to their nature. They are forever young, forever innocent, and forever protected from the corruption, the betrayal, and the brutal trials of the earthly valley of tears. For a grieving mother, this changes everything. When you lose a baby, the natural maternal instinct is to feel that you failed to protect them from death. You wanted to hold them, feed them, teach them how to walk, and shield them from the cruelty of the world. But look at what actually happened in the spiritual realm. Your child bypassed the grueling, dangerous, and often terrifying test of earthly life. We live in a world where souls are constantly in danger of being lost to addiction, to pride, to despair, and to the lies of the enemy. Every day on earth is a spiritual battlefield, and the risk of eternal damnation is a terrifying reality for all of us. But your child? Your child skipped the battlefield entirely. They were granted a VIP pass out of the war zone. They opened their eyes not to a world of pain and suffering, but to a state of eternal, unbreakable peace. They will never know the sting of a broken heart. They will never know the betrayal of a friend. They will never feel the crushing weight of their own sin. You did not lose them to the darkness. They were swept up into the protective arms of a merciful Creator who looked at their fragility and said, "This one is too precious for the cross. I am taking them straight to peace." This profound reality allows the grieving parent to reframe their sorrow. Yes, the physical separation is an agonizing cross that the mother must carry for the rest of her earthly life, but she carries it knowing that she is the only one suffering. Her baby is not crying in the dark. Her baby is not cold. Her baby is thriving in a state of joy that we, in our fallen earthly state, can barely even comprehend. The child is safe, and this safety is not a temporary comfort. It is an eternal guarantee, secured by the very blood of Christ who loves the little children. But the story of God's mercy does not stop there. The Church, guided by the Holy Spirit over the centuries, has meditated deeply on these visions and the infinite nature of Christ's love. While the limbo of the infants was the traditional theological explanation for their natural happiness, the modern Church has leaned even further into the immense, unsearchable depths of God's grace. In the final block, we will look at what the Catechism says today about these precious souls, the incredible evolution of hope that allows us to believe they might actually be fully integrated into the beatific vision and the specific, powerful spiritual actions a mother can take right now to maintain the unbreakable bond with her child until the day they are finally reunited. O Gemini Dice, the historical and theological concept of supreme natural happiness is a beautiful, deeply comforting shield against the nightmare of hell. It proves that the Creator is perfectly just and would never torture an innocent soul. But the heart of a mother is a relentless force. Even knowing her child is safe and perfectly happy in a natural paradise, a mother's love desires the absolute highest good for her baby. She doesn't just want them to be safe, she wants them to be in the very throne room of God, bathed in the beatific vision, fully integrated into the supernatural glory of heaven. And it is here, in the modern era, that the Church, guided by the Holy Spirit and reflecting deeply on the immense mercy revealed to mystics like Saint Bridget, has offered an evolution of profound hope. While the Church has never condemned the idea of limbo, she has leaned with all her weight into the infinite, unsearchable depths of divine mercy. The Catechism of the Catholic Church addresses this exact agonizing question with words that every grieving parent should frame and put on their wall. It states that regarding children who have died without baptism, the Church can only entrust them to the mercy of God. But this is not an empty, shoulder-shrugging kind of trust. It is a trust built on a very specific, unbreakable theological principle. God has bound salvation to the sacrament of baptism, but He Himself is not bound by His sacraments. God is not a prisoner of His own rules. He is the sovereign King of the universe, and He can pour out His saving grace in extraordinary ways that we cannot even begin to comprehend. We look at the words of Jesus Christ Himself in the Gospels, words that echo the exact sentiment He gave to Saint Bridget. When the disciples tried to push the infants away, thinking they were too small or insignificant for the Master, Jesus became indignant. He rebuked His closest followers and said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." The Church today looks at that sentence and sees a promise. If Jesus wept with compassion for the sick on earth, if his heart breaks for the brokenhearted, how could we ever imagine that he would close the gates of his ultimate kingdom to a fragile, innocent soul simply because they died before water could be poured? We have a sure and certain hope that the extraordinary mercy of God, who desires all human beings to be saved, provides a way for these unbaptized infants to experience the full, supernatural joy of heaven. Before we discuss the powerful spiritual actions you can take right now to connect with your child, I want to invite you to help us keep this sanctuary of truth alive. We are living in a culture that treats human life as disposable and grief as an inconvenience. This channel exists to bring the heavy, healing, and forgotten truths of the faith to people who are drowning in despair. If this video has brought peace to your heart, please consider becoming a member of this channel. For just $2 a month, an amount so small it is less than a cup of coffee or a quick Uber ride, you can become a vital patron of this mission. Your membership gives you access to exclusive, members-only videos where we dive even deeper into the mysteries of the faith. But more importantly, it allows us to produce these documentaries and reach mothers and fathers who are crying themselves to sleep tonight. Please click the join button below. Stand with us and help us turn the tide of darkness. So, what does this mean for you, the mother or the father still walking through this earthly valley of tears? It means that your relationship with your child did not end in the hospital room. It did not end in the silence of the ultrasound clinic. The physical umbilical cord may have been cut or never fully formed, but the spiritual umbilical cord is eternal. You are still their mother. You are still their father. Death does not erase maternity, it elevates it. The first and most crucial spiritual action you can take is to name your child. If you lost a baby early in pregnancy and never knew the gender, choose a name anyway. Giving a name is a profound theological act. It claims that soul for your family. It recognizes their unique, unrepeatable dignity as a human person created by God. When you name them, you pull them out of the abstract realm of a loss and into the concrete reality of a family member. Second, you must entrust them to the ultimate mother. The Blessed Virgin Mary knows exactly what it feels like to watch a son die. She knows the piercing sword of sorrow. When you feel the crushing weight of their absence, close your eyes and ask Mary to do what you cannot physically do right now. Ask her to hold your baby. Ask her to rock them, to sing to them, and to cover them with her mantle. In the economy of grace, Mary acts as the Queen Mother of Heaven, and she will never refuse a grieving mother on earth who asks her to babysit a precious soul until the family is reunited. You can formally offer a spiritual baptism of desire, expressing to God that if you had the time and the power, you would have brought this child to the font. God sees the intention of your heart, and He accepts the desire of the parents as a powerful intercessory prayer. Finally, you must realize a stunning reversal of roles. On earth, parents take care of their children. We protect them, feed them, and pray for them. But because your child bypassed the trials of this world and entered directly into the protective mercy of God, they are now in a position of spiritual power. They are completely pure. They are completely sinless. This means your baby is now praying for you. You have a personal intercessor standing before the throne of the Almighty. The child you thought you lost has actually become the anchor, pulling your family toward heaven. When you are tempted to despair, when your marriage is struggling under the weight of grief, when you feel like you cannot take another step, ask your little one to pray for you. They are watching you with perfect love. They want you to finish your race. They want you to make it home. The enemy wants you to look at your empty arms and see nothing but a void. But Christ, through the profound visions of Saint Bridget and the enduring hope of the Church, tells you to look up. Your child is not in the dark. Your child is not in pain. They are flourishing in the warm, blinding light of divine love. They are safe from every evil that this broken world could have ever thrown at them. Let this truth dry your tears. Carry your cross with the dignity of a mother who knows that her child is secure in the arms of the King. And live your life with a fierce holy determination, so that when your own final moment comes and the veil of this world falls away, the first face you see in eternity will be the beautiful, radiant face of the child who has been waiting for you all along.